Hey, have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Well, Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. I love it for the simple fact that it brings the sponsors to you. You don't have to search for them, and they distribute it to all the major platforms for you. So if you want to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. Again, anchor.fm/START to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. And that's it. Let's go.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Supreme Decisions Legal Minute Podcast.
Supreme on the track.
And today, good thing we're not going to have a whole bunch of commercials. So, hope you enjoyed that. But today I'm going to talk about something because, again, for the life of me, I do not understand how it is still possible. People are still calling me, asking me to take cases on contingency, asking me to not do the things necessary to pretty much work for free. When, in fact, 99% of these people that contact me that want me to work for free will not do it themselves. So, today's episode is entitled, How Much Justice Can You Afford? Because I'm going to go into a little bit more in-depth breakdown of how the legal system itself works, because that seems to be our greatest point of concern. I'm actually going to also get into things such as ineffectiveness of counsel. I'm going to do a quick segment on that, but I'm going to point it out more in a couple of videos that are going to air this week because I've done these videos while I was out traveling. It's just finding the time to get them edited. But in the course of all that, it's even understanding that the investigator has to be paid, and there are other things that are done within everyone's case that allows for us to get to a point of justice. Because I've said this once, I'll say it again. The most expensive thing you will carry with you throughout your entire life is ignorance. And the simple point of that is understanding what the word ignorant means. And then the interpretation of it that's given. It's, you're going to pay for everything that you do in life. You're either going to pay for it with money, or you're going to pay for it with time, or you're going to pay for it as a result of both. Now, one of the things that I talk about today is going to be something that kind of unnerves you. I've done a video where I talked about lost love. Because if you remember, right after the trial in 2012, I was doing a lot of TV shows. I was doing a lot of radio shows. I had a lot of people that were reaching out to me. And in the midst of doing all of that, in 2013, towards the end of 2013, I just stopped. I fell off the map. I actually didn't do anything in 2014, nothing in 2015, nothing in 2016. And at the end of 2017 is when the channel Supreme Decisions was born. The reason I took that time off, and even the fact that I was reluctant to even start this one, was because I had become so just disheartened for the most part. And I was running to the ground because the same people that came to me for help were the same people that was trying to trash my name. They were the same people that wanted me to work for free. Those were the same people that sat across from me during my trial and was trying to tell me, because they took a deal because they were scared, that I did something wrong because they chose to not follow through. They chose to not fight. So I was the victim. I was the one that was being blamed. And I got tired of it. And then even starting back last year, 2019, I went out and I literally had to do a second video because I talked about how 90% of the people that contacted me wanted me to work for free. Now, give you a backstory on the donation links. I had literally done videos for a year, just putting videos up. And right before my 100th video, a person that appreciated the information I was given, because that's exactly what it is. When you're sending a donation, you're not sending a donation for me. You're not sending it directly for the channel. But what you're doing is showing appreciation for what's being put into the channel, what's being put into the video quality, what's being put into the audio quality, what's being put into the things that are helping you get to another level. That's what you are donating for. Because most of the stuff, what I do on YouTube, what I do on the podcast, that is absolutely free. Why? Because I'm taking my time. I'm choosing whenever I do this. I don't provide a service. I offer help for those that appreciate it. And if you don't appreciate it, I won't work with you. I've even had a couple of people that I chose to work with because their case was winnable. But because they were scared, I gave them their money back. Because I don't live in a realm of fear. I don't live in a point of being scared. Now, if you tell me at some point, you know what, Richard, I'm scared as hell. Guess what? What we're doing is scary. But fear is not the opposite of courage. Courage is acting in spite of the fear. No one goes out to plan to be a hero that's actually a hero. Nobody goes out to be brave that's actually not afraid of something. Because standing in that courtroom, the one thing you know what, I'm going to go back. Because my father was a very, very asshole-ish man. He was a very religious man. He was a man that when he found something, he stuck to it, and that was his thing. The one thing he always said to me, and it got on my nerves, the one quote he came to me constantly with, because whenever I would say I was scared, or I was afraid to do something, or I was afraid of something, he would say, the thing that I have feared the most has come upon me. I never understood what the hell he meant whenever he would say that. I never even understood that was a biblical quote. The thing that I feared the most has come upon me. Now, my biblical people, my people that go to church and do all that good stuff, you guys know where it comes from. You understand the context. I'm not going to get into the context of it. But what I am going to get into is the meaning behind that. Is because it also comes from a similar place of, as a man thinketh, so shall it be. Because what you place your mind on the most, that what is manifested. And fear is the greatest acronym of it is false expectations appearing real. Because as you're living with expectation, you're expecting the worst. And 99% of the time, whatever happens, even the consequence, is not as great as what you thought it would be. Because our innate ability or innate desire to want to be in control of something, our innate desire to want to even manipulate situations, we create a situation that is not there. But what happens when that does face you? What happens? Because it's not what happens to a champion when he gets knocked down. Because that was the one thing I loved about Ali. Ali being knocked down, losing the championship, did not make him the greatest. It was what Ali did when he got up. That's what makes a champion. One of my favorite champions, although it was staged and all that good stuff, but it was entertainment, was Ric Flair. Because he would always ask, can you walk that aisle one more time, because winning the belt does not make you a champion. Facing your fear doesn't make you fearless. Can you continue to face it? Can you continue to win? Because defending the belt made you a champion. That's why there are a lot of people that have won the belt. There are very few people that have defended it 10 times. In the UFC, it's very few heavyweights that have defended the heavyweight belt more than 3 times. That's why they're celebrated when they're doing it 10, 11, 12 times. Because winning the championship is one thing, defending it is another. And when you're walking with fear, you're living with expectations of disappointment. You're living with expectations of those things that are pretty much seemingly out of your reach. Those are the things that you get back. And that actually brought me to one thing. It brings me to a poem by Langston Hughes. And he asked a question. Because in that question, it lies a simple answer. Because the reason why I'm bringing it to you today is because the relevance of it and the understanding of it is also part of the culmination of what we're doing. Why I cannot and will not work for you for free. Why I cannot and will not work on contingency. Other than the fact that nobody has ever, and I'm going to keep saying that, nobody has ever cut me a check after they won, after I've helped them. I'm going to say that. So I'm finners. I'm going to, I've never received any of the I finners. I'm going to, and wait for it, brother. I've never received any of them. So again, that's where we're at. But I want to bring this up because he asked the question, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. These are the things that go through your mind. Those are the stages that you go through because your dream is to get justice. And we understand our justice system is not about justice. Why? Because there's a human aspect. A human aspect that is prone to errors. A human aspect that is generated by revenue. A human aspect that does not know how to investigate. And also that human aspect which can't apologize for the things that they've done, the wrongs that they've made. And they always need a reason to keep you locked up so they can continue to say, I was right. Now, that gives way to this TV show. Because if you remember, I talked about the story in Atlanta where the young lady was questioned by a police officer over there near Godby Road, which was a Clayton County police officer. And you also often hear me talk about how police aren't trained to solve crime or even look for the truth. They are scientists. They create a hypothesis, and then they look for evidence to match their hypothesis. So that's why when you're looking at shows like CSI, it's unrealistic because that's not what they're doing. You look at these other shows like even Bull. Bull is trial science, but in this aspect of the trial science, he's doing investigations. Why? Because he's looking for not necessarily the truth, but he's looking for a different angle. Because he knows they're not trained to find it. They're not trained to cover their ass when it's done that. Because we also know that they're not hiring the most intellectual people. Because when you have intellectual people, it's difficult to control them. It's difficult to just hand them something and have them go execute it. Why? Because they have to have answers. These are the things that are not done by police. But when we're talking about stories where a young lady is all of a sudden a quote-unquote suspect, knowing she was not in the vicinity or a person that committed the act, that's not looking for the truth. That's trying to close a case. That's trying to make evidence fit to a certain narrative. And then I look at a show called Truth Be Told. If you don't have Apple TV, I was able to get it for a year for free, so see if you can actually log on to your MacBooks or iPads or even your iPhones and see if you can get that. Because one of the things I like is whenever I watch other people, and in this one is Oscar Award winner Octavia Spencer. And in her little segment, I believe it's 8 videos long, or 8 hours, so I binged it a little bit. But in truth be told, she hired a detective. She went after the truth. She searched for leads. And these were things that were not done by the police, because as she went along, she noticed there were things that were left out by the police. She noticed things that was overlooked by the prosecution. She even noticed that a lot of the stories did not match from the witnesses. I think we've heard that before, because I think I did a podcast last week where I spoke about death row inmates. A lot of them being released simply because faulty police work. Stupid things like witnesses that are being forced to testify, nobody paying attention to their actual words, because words have power. And then when those witnesses are recanting, nobody now wants to listen because the system itself can't apologize. But here's the greater part of that. Her investigator cost money. It cost her money to do that investigation. It cost her money to go through the steps of finding out what it is that went on, and she did that for a podcast. Although it's a TV show, but the underlying truths of it is the fact that she had to spend money, even with a friend, because he had to change what he was doing because he's an investigator. Now, while he has certain aspects that allow him to be a little bit more free because he was a former police officer, he still had to pay money to do some of the things he had to do. She had to pay him because he had to work for her. She was an employer, he was an employee, because she was looking for the truth. She did an investigation that unraveled everything about a certain case. And then we have a growing frustration with the police not solving crimes. And we're always looking for that one person to blame. And I'm going to give you a great example. When we talk about stories like Columbine, everybody remembers the news talking about 2 shooters that was killed or killed themselves, self-inflicted gun wounds inside the school. But everybody forgets about there were 2 other young men that was in that trench coat mafia. They were forgetting there were 2 other young men that weren't on roll call that day for school. Nobody ever talked about them. Then I can actually come a little closer to home, because here in El Paso, in 2019 was the first time I actually seen gun violence in El Paso since I've been here. And we often forget that, hell, even that day we forgot, because it was glossed over, that there were 3 shooters. And then all of a sudden, within minutes, literal minutes, when they had one guy in custody, it was also a lone gunman, and now nobody has video. So we're looking for one person to blame so we can all sleep well at night. But we're not paying attention to facts. We're not looking at things that are actually there or were there to begin with. Because our justice system is not about the truth. It's about making you feel comfortable, which is why you always hear these stupid-ass stories about people calling on other people and then the police not correcting the behavior of the caller. You have these young women out here saying these men hitting them, and then, in fact, there was no actual contact. There was no actual hitting. There was no actual altercation. But because they're angry, and the easy target is that man at that time, nobody's investigating what really happened. And that's why every year we have growing numbers of unsolved cases, which is why you have actual TV show where this lady, she's an ex-prosecutor. She has nothing else better to do, and guess what? She has sponsors. And they pay her to go around the country looking to solve unsolved cases. And then I looked at this documentary the other day, and to me, it was one of the absolute craziest things I had ever seen in my life. Because it's a Netflix special. It's called Don't Fuck with Cats, Hunting an Internet Killer. Now, this time, I'm not going to bash American police. Because in this case, there was a young man. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'm spoiling a lot of it. So if you plan on seeing it, just understand that I'm going to give you pretext and context of it, but I'm not going to go detail for detail. But the long and short of it is, there was a young man who was not unlike most people. The only difference is he needed attention so bad to where he created profiles of himself and he complimented himself, and he had did that more often than not. Definitely wasn't a healthy amount. So in doing that, he didn't get the attention he wanted. So what he did, he created a cat video. And then in the cat video, he was fucking with cats for the most part. So he did 3 cat videos. In the midst of doing that, again, there were people they were calling, but don't know where he's at. Don't know who this guy is, don't know anything. But by the 3rd video, he started taunting them because there was a group of people that created a Facebook group just to find out who he was. Just to let you know, that's how lonely these motherfuckers are. They created an entire group of people that just stalked this guy and tried to find him and all this other good stuff. Now, here's the crazier part about this. It took them more than a year. It took this random ass people more than a year to not only find this guy, but to actually set him up to be caught, to come out, to start engaging with them. Once that happened, because his need to be talked to, they then alerted the police. The police didn't really give a shit about it because, it's cats. Nobody cares. He's not Michael Vick. He's not a football player. Even though Michael Vick never touched a damn dog and never killed a dog. But again, at this point, that's neither here nor there. But in this case, this young man had killed cats on pretty much YouTube and had gotten millions of views from it, which basically is what he wanted. So now they're making him an internet celebrity. And in doing so, this young man promised to kill someone. He also does this online, and this one was set up on LiveLeak. The craziest part about this was the police had been alerted by them as well as him more than a year prior to him killing someone. I'm going to say that one more time. The police was alerted by them, the Facebook group, and the young man who did the killing 1 year prior. And the police still did nothing. And then, during the midst of their investigation, guess who they went to? The Facebook group to get their evidence. Why? Because the police are not trained to solve crimes or look for the truth. They didn't even bother to investigate. And had these people not been keeping up with everything that he did for the most part, they still wouldn't have anything because it was their evidence that was being used. So just understand that. It took them more than a year, and they didn't even give a crap about anything that this young man was doing, and then did not have a means of catching him without this Facebook group. They had all the resources in the world, but they ended up going to a group of no-names on Facebook to catch somebody. So whenever I'm telling you, that's not how police work works, because they're not trained to solve crimes, nor look for the truth, which in turn creates the situations of having a ton of wrongful convictions because of the human element, which in turn leaves these people on death row, leave these people in prison. And then inside our prisons just because they're wearing orange does not make them a criminal, nor does it make them guilty of anything. Because even in Cleveland right now, because I'm going to get back on topic, even in Cleveland right now, Cleveland created a separate holding center because they don't want to call it jail because it's just people that can't afford to get out on bail. And what they do, they won't keep you more than 120 days. But guess what happens in 120 days if you can't afford bail? Because the system itself is attacking the poor. Why? Because they can't afford much justice. And in doing so, 120 days gives you just enough time to what? Lose your job, lose your house, lose your means of income. Hell, in a lot of cases, lose your children. Why? Because as long as they're wards of the state, they control the actions of your child. They can force medicate the child to keep the child incompetent. They can force medicate the child and take them away and take away your say-so. Because now they can disparage you by something as simple as a traffic citation, which again, because you're not fighting properly, because you don't have enough money to fight in court, because you don't have enough money to hire someone, because you don't have enough money to get out on bond. These are the things that are set in front of you as a means of deterrent to control you, because you can't afford much justice. Because if you're just sitting, your life can be taken from you. And I call it the Tupac form of killing, because Tupac said, I don't want to take anybody's physical life. I want to kill these MFs breathing. Because that's what they're doing. Because it's not a war on everyone. It's a war on the poor. Because the poor is the one that's giving them revenue. The poor is the one that spends the most. Why? Because they make poor people decisions. I'm going to get into that later. But again, these are the things that don't allow you to get ahead. These are the things that don't allow you to get the justice that you're seeking. These are the things that when you're looking at people such as OJ in the first trial against Nicole Brown Simpson, as well as Ron Goldman, the reason he was able to get off was not necessarily because he was innocent, but it was because he had enough money for the justice necessary. Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, they kept Marsha and was it Rod, whatever dude's name was. They kept them in court because they didn't allow them to control the narrative of that. They kept them focused on the evidence. Every time something happened, they challenged the evidence. How often are you challenging evidence? How are you gathering evidence? What are you doing for the investigation? Are you doing the investigation, or are you hiring an investigator? Because again, you're either going to pay for it with time or you're going to pay for it with money. So if you're not paying somebody to investigate, guess who has to do the investigation? But you also have to know what you're investigating. See, understand, I say things in a certain meaning because each word has power. Because the investigator is speaking as in a person. A person commit an act that's doing a job. The investigation is the job that is being done. Investigating is what is the action. All of those are the things that need to be accounted for. All of those things cost money or time or both. These are the things I'm not going to do. But if you are wanting more justice, these are the things that you have to have done, or you must find a way to get it done, or you must do it yourself. Because just like the most popular TV show I've ever seen other than Cops is The First 48. If you don't recall this show, at some point in every show, everybody or somebody broke the code of no snitching. Everybody, as I say, became a police officer. They not snitching. I'm not snitching. I'm not snitching. Then all of a sudden, I'm not going to tell you nothing because I wasn't involved. But Ray Ray was there, and Ray Ray can tell you everything. Ray Ray had the gun. Because, again, they need somebody to tell them what they want to hear and fit their idea of the crime. These are the things that, unfortunately, you're going to have to pay for. Because they are not trained to solve crimes or even look for the truth. And if you want the truth, you're not going to find it in the justice system. Because 90% of the time, if they're not looking for a crime, what difference does it make about the truth? Because you're only challenging their accusations. If you're not going to challenge their accusations and make them prove what they're saying, then what the hell is the point of everything else that you're doing? Because even in one case that I looked up a little while ago, and it's Mincy v. Arizona, because you know Arizona is the king of screwing things up, and it talked about the constitutionality of a protected right to privacy when searching, even after a crime. Because I've talked about it time and time and time and time and time again. A map hearing to challenge evidence. I don't care what it is. Because just like I told you, I can't give it to you. You have to come and get it from me. I'm not going to just say I did anything. You're going to have to prove your accusations from the time you say them to the time I'm acquitted, because I will not lose, because I know you didn't do your job 100%. And that is the only thing I need, because just like I also know they're putting up baseball numbers, and you can't beat me putting up baseball numbers. Because if your completion percentage is in the 30s and my completion percentage is in the 70s, guess who's going to win that? The person that has 70%. And here's the greater part about that. Here's the greater part. As more people are challenging, because only 5% of anybody that's stopped in a traffic accident or traffic infraction, only 5% of those people that are out of 2 million every month. 2 million every month, only 5% of them challenge. 95% of them win. Now, those that are charged with something criminally, only 5% of those people go to trial. 70% of those people win. Now, the one thing about it is, why am I challenging evidence? It's because generally it's either not gathered correctly, or it's not even evidence for something, or it was gathered out of something that was not allowed, such as without consent or without a warrant. Because that's why I gave you exigent circumstances. That's why I tell you, and I showed you in the Darren Ross video, once the police officer had him at the tailgate, there's no more arm's length. There are no more exigent circumstances. The smell of marijuana is not an exigent circumstance when you have the person away from the vehicle. Why? Because they are not with an arm's length, and there is no opportunity to destroy evidence. They must get a warrant or gain consent. But in Ross's case, he gave consent. Now, otherwise, even though that stupid ass officer said, oh, I don't need it because of the marijuana, yes, he did. Because if Darren Ross had not given consent and he chose to challenge it, I guarantee you would not have seen that police video. I guarantee you, even in that video, the video would have shown them committing an illegal search and seizure. Because even when they're doing the dog, I actually watched one the other day where they had the dog. Now, I don't know what an alert is. I can tell you, I don't know. However, even with the dog, they still need a warrant. Because the dog can only notify them to something that might be in there. But they still need consent to go inside your vehicle. They need consent to go inside your property. They need to consent to go under a covered motorcycle. If you have a car cover, they need consent to move anything, because everything has to be done by the book. Here's the problem. Most of us are too afraid to challenge it. Why? Because they talk tough. They do the bully talk. Oh, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Well, how about you just turn over the evidence and let's get it? Because that was one of the things that threw them off. I didn't care about none of that shit they was talking about. Give me what I asked for, and then we can go on and fight. Because like I told you, the second they set that up, that's your contract to fight. That's your adversary. Because we have an adversarial system. That's the accuser you get to confront. But most of us are not confronting them. Why? Because we're afraid to lose our jobs. But if we lose our jobs, then we have to pay for the justice that we're getting. But then we want to complain about what we just paid for. I'm going to say that one more time. We're afraid to do something. Then we pay for it. Then when we pay for it, we complain about what we just paid for. Because we're not strong enough to fight. We're not mentally in a place to fight. And we're looking at other celebrities that are getting off, that have tons of money. Because just like I told everybody, one of the things that go into pattern behavior is this thing called payoffs. You look at Harry Weinstein or Harvey Weinstein, whatever dude's name is, the Weinstein dude. He made payments to people. Guess what? He has a pattern of doing that. So now that he wants to fight, it's too late. You're already guilty. R. Kelly, he had money. He kept paying these women and these young girls. Now he doesn't have the money to pay them, and he's starting to fight. He's already guilty. Michael Jackson had to be given money because he kept paying all these people. And then when he decided, you know what, it's important to fight, he was already guilty because his pattern of behavior had already showed that he's going to sweep that under the rug. And now he doesn't want to sweep when he's actually innocent, when he's actually not done something, but again, it's a hypothetical because the appearance of what it looks like, which is why when you're standing there, a lot of times they'll try to do something like read old crimes into the record. The problem is they're not reading the police officer's arrest record into the record. They're not reading the police officer's disciplinary actions into the record. They're not reading the police officer's former court hearings into the record, because that's where the investigator comes in at, or that's where your investigating comes in at. Note how I put that. Either you're going to hire somebody or you're going to do it yourself, because that's the level of justice you can afford. And if you do neither, that's also the level of justice you can afford. Now we're looking at these people going out, and we talked about the ineffectiveness of counsel, because even with that one, we have a lot of things such as the Brady, exculpatory evidence. Many times they don't want to turn anything over because they don't have anything. And if they turn it over, they're going to show you and the world that they don't have anything. And it's going to corrupt the system, because where the material itself is for your guilt or innocence, they don't want you to know that they don't ever have anything to beat you, which is why they lose so much when they actually have to stand up against you. They can talk tough. And here's what I hate, because I actually have, again, a lot of cop friends. I have a lot of police relatives. And one of the things they say was how do I feel if a killer, murderer, yada, 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 goes free? I honestly tell them it sounds like the system worked and the cops didn't do their job. And they get pissed. Well, how does the cop not do their job? Cool. If that person had actually done it, they would have all the evidence necessary for that guilt to be given. Because, again, you have the prosecutor, you have the judge, you have the investigators, you have the actual people, the cops that are on the scene, you have the arresting officers, you have those people, you have 10 sets of people for the most part that are going out for this one case. And if they're doing the case properly, whatever it is, you should have the means for a conviction, whether that person fights back or not, if that's what the system is about. Because even I actually posted it up because I said Churchill last time. I forgot the guy that actually said it. And it's better for 10 guilty to go free than one innocent man spend any time under corporal punishment. Now, when you're talking about 10 guilty going free, and you're talking about one innocent man, and then we're looking to my story from last week where I talked about innocent men being executed via the gas chamber, the electric chair, lethal injection, knowing these people did not commit this crime. Because, again, those are the questions that I turn around and ask those police officers. You're upset about the guilty that's going free. Are you okay with then not allowing the innocent to be free? Are you okay with the innocent losing their life because of not being able to apologize? And then they all look at me because they're torn, because it is a us against them mentality that they're inbreeding. That's what they're teaching. That's why they created their own gang flag. Because I don't give a shit about how you feel about it or how it's looked at or how you interpret it. Just like the Crips and Bloods have their flags. This is how you have Pyru and folk have their flags. The Vice Lords have their flags. These are the ones that they are doing. They're creating their own flag. They're standing up for only them. And they're not correcting their brothers' behaviors. They're not snitching. And then when they're not doing the things that are required of them, they're getting upset with those that are. So if I ask them to do something that they're supposed to do, all of a sudden, now I'm the person that's the problem. I've never understood that. Because if I'm going out and I'm doing the things that are necessary to not only be successful, but to go out and show you what you've done is wrong. Let me change something else, because I have a group of friends, and most of the time I tell you my friends are assholes. All of us are assholes. We give everybody the exact same energy. We build you up, but when you do something stupid, you get called out for it. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter how rich it is. It doesn't matter how poor they are. They getting the exact same treatment. Why? Because I am my brother's keeper. If you're doing something stupid, guess what I'm going to call it? Stupid. Fuck your feelings. They're yours to do whatever it is that you like to do with them. Because at the end of the day, if I can't correct your behavior and you can't correct mine, do we really give a shit about each other? I'm going to let that, I'm going to throw it, I'm going to ask one more time, then I'm going to give you dramatic effect. I'm going to hit you with the pause, because I want you to think about that. If I can't correct your behavior and you can't correct mine, do you really give a shit about one another? And see, we're gonna let that kind of settle in for the peanut gallery, because I know a lot of these people are going out and they're falling short because they're allowing stupidity to go on. They're allowing stupid shit to happen. They are allowing things to continue, but then don't want to correct it. But then at the same time, they're expecting something different. And then when we're going out, we're doing things the exact same way every time. We're doing it wrong. And then when somebody corrects us, oh, you hating. Or as I had one stupid bitch tell me, oh, you a fuck boy. Why? Because I don't agree with you? Because I'm not going to let you walk blindly into something stupidly when it's unnecessary? When I've been down the road you're trying to go down to, and I know where the roadblocks are, but I'm telling you where they are, and because you want to ride by yourself. Okay, cool. I'm going to let you ride by yourself. You do realize you can't ask me for anything else ever again in life. And that's where I'm at. Because whether you like it or don't like it, there's always somebody, no matter what section of life they're in. It's a great possibility they've walked down a path that you haven't. Or they walked in the directions you're walking in. They can't tell you all of it, but they can tell you a little bit about it. But at the same time, when we're talking about this legal shit, like I said, this is what I live. This is what I do from the time I get up to the time I go to sleep. I live law. That's what I do. I've been doing this. I've actually found a new means of joy from this. But at the same time, there are other aspects, and I have no qualms of saying, yeah, that brother does it better than me. That sister over there handles her business and that better than anybody I know. And guess what? It doesn't hurt me one bit. Because the one thing I've learned is, if you're going to ask for help, generally it's because you need it. But if you're not willing to sacrifice for it. Because I had a conversation a couple of days ago, and the conversation rolled into sacrifice needs to be more than a tattoo or a slogan on a shirt. Because no one wants to sacrifice anymore. Everybody wants everything. We're in a microwave society right now. Everybody wants everything fast and quick. I don't do fast and quick. I take I'm a dude that prepares a home meal. If you want something out the microwave, go to somebody else. I don't give you the cookie cutter motions. Because again, if it's about money, I wouldn't be here because YouTube doesn't pay enough. And hell, with the demonetization and the rate that most of the people that I deal with actually donate to, yeah, I would be fucking starving. Because even now, I'm looking at less than 1% of the people that follow me actually donate. So 99, why does that number keep popping up? 99% of the people I deal with that follow me, that watch my videos, that do anything, they even comment or whatever, don't donate. 99%. So I'm going to let you do the math. Right now, today, I have probably right at 4,500 followers. Right? Now, going through that, multiply that by 1%. I have less than that actually donate, that appreciate the channel, that appreciate what I'm giving to you, that appreciate the things that I'm giving to you and how I'm giving them to you, that actually care. Now, I'm not saying that, okay, you only got to donate this amount of money. No. Donation of $5 is great. Donation of $1 here, $1 there. Because, again, I'm not trying to break you, and this YouTube channel isn't about money. But I can't do investigations for you because investigating requires time and money. I'm not willing to give you any of my time without being compensated for it. So when you're talking about writing a motion, I can't give you any of my time without being compensated for it. And if you don't appreciate my time, I definitely can't explain that to the person that I'm with. I definitely can't explain that to my children why I can't give them time. Because I'm spending time, because I've done that. Doing that almost got me my life in prison. I'm good. Because I dedicated my life to someone I should not have. I'm never doing that again. I'm not going to reach out to anyone that needs help, that will not appreciate it. Because the one thing I hate is an ungrateful motherfucker. And I've actually left relationships because of that. I've lost friends because I will not deal with the ungrateful motherfucker. And if you need me to tone that down, I apologize, because you can go to another podcast. Because at the end of the day, this is what it is. I probably use profanity on all my videos, damn near. I think that's less than 1% that I don't use profanity on it. But at the same time, it's the idea of when we're talking about things like Brady. Because I'm actually getting ready to tell you about one more. Because these are the things that lead you into ineffectiveness of counsel. The forced searching. The not fighting during map hearing. Not fighting cross-race identifications with Wade hearing. Not doing things to get exculpatory evidence. Not setting up and giving instructions in writing. Not exercising. Because the worst thing you can do or not do is not exercise. Because if you don't exercise as far as your body, guess what? You become unhealthy. Guess what happens if you don't exercise and you are forced to confront someone and you choose not to confront them? It's not healthy. Because now you're at the mercy of somebody who gives no shits about you. And I've said the same story probably 100 times, standing in front of a police officer. He's suing me, or I'm suing him, and he goes, "Why would you do this to me? I have a wife and kids." And my response to him was, "Because you gave no shits about me or my wife or my kids." They don't care about you. Because I even had a young lady that I was helping a while ago. And I told her, hey, you need to do this immediately. She's like, no, I'm not going to do that because she was really nice and blah, 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 blah. 2 days later, she got a notice from that same nice lady that was throwing her ass on the bus and looking for an excuse not to get fired. And I told her, did she give a shit about you, how nice you were when you were standing there with her? Did she give a shit about your life, your wife, your family? Did she give a shit about any of that? Because you gave a shit about hers. And she gave none about yours. Understand, even when doing this, the fight itself, you're going to spend time or you're going to spend money. But at the end of the day, you're not going to spend my time because, again, if you're not compensating me for it, my time, there's no need in you calling me, texting me, emailing me, smoke signals. I don't care what it is because I can't give it to you. And I will not give it to you. And just because you send me a donation does not mean I'm going to have a conversation with you. Does not mean I'm going to help you with your case. It does not mean anything other than thank you. I appreciate it. Because it's going right back to the channel. Because as you see, when I started, because actually a young lady reminded me last night about that, I put up a GoFundMe. And then I actually took it down. Because, one, I didn't promote it very well. That's one. And then, two, nobody actually donated to GoFundMe. They actually started sending it to the links. So when I set up the links, these are the things that are made available to you. Because even people ask me, hey, set up a PayPal, because I only use PayPal. I reset up PayPal. I went from a business to a personal account. So now people have access to it. But in the midst of their donations, guess what? I've gone from 1 MacBook to 2 MacBooks, gone to a faster MacBook. I've gotten better software. I've gotten better transitions. I've gotten better titles. I've even gotten a new camera, got a new microphone, gotten, a new phone. Because these are the things that are going right back into the channel itself. And we are looking to do this to win. But it's understanding that it's not for free. I can't accept these things and not do something to give you back something. I have to give you substance when I'm doing this. Because just like even today, I'm going to give you one more court case. And it's Strickland v. Washington. And it determines when a criminal defendant's Sixth Amendment right to counsel is violated by that counsel's inadequate performance. Because one of the things that I've said over the last couple weeks is the fact that this system will not apologize. And one of the examples I gave was the Central Park 5. These young men were tried, convicted. They were interrogated longer than they were supposed to be. They were not allowed counsel. And then when they were allowed to talk to their parents, they were lied to. Because their parents, again, they were poor. They couldn't afford attorneys. And then whenever it found out that another man's DNA was found at the scene, another man confessed to the crime. Another man gave the exact description of what happened, where it happened, how it happened. 4 of the 5 young men was released. 1 remained on death row for another year. Why? Because the system can't apologize. But when you're going back and then you go back, because once the system apologizes, once they say, yeah, we messed up, guess what happens? Because even, again, Gerald Butler told you in Law-Abiding Citizen, lessons not learned in blood are often forgotten. The way you make a corporation bleed, the way you make a corporation apologize, is to make them cut you a check. The Central Park 5 had them cut them a check. And one of the things that allowed them to gain relief was the ineffectiveness of counsel. And I'm going to, again, explain that a little bit deeper. Because to attain relief because of ineffectiveness of counsel, a criminal defendant must show that the counsel's performance fell below an objective standard of reasonableness and that counsel's deficient performance gives rise to a reasonable probability that if the counsel had performed adequately, the result of the proceeding would have been different. This is also one of the things that I talk about when I talk about the public pretender system. Because I've told you the standard is 100 hours per case. Now, the great part about this would be the example of my brother. My brother was given counsel because anytime your liberty is at stake, they must assign counsel to you if you have not done the things necessary to show them that you are, 1, competent, or 2, representing your interests, or 3, both of them. And generally, most people have no idea how to properly notify the court that they are competent. And that's why you see a lot of these other stupid people on the internet. They're hollering and screaming and, oh, I'm not accepting this, I'm not accepting that, but they're also not exercising. Because the one thing they do is you'll see a difference when you start doing, you do something different, you get something different. Because doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, is the definition of insanity. You witness it over and over and over again, you're expecting a different result. When you do it, you're insane. And that's why I tell people that's why I have a channel that exists. Because I did something, but again, just like Brother Elisha always told me, line upon line, precept upon precept, everything you do has a process. When you follow that process, you'll notice they don't. Because they've been doing wrong so long, they don't even realize it. Because everything that you're doing is to set them up for personal liability. Everything they're doing is setting you up to offer them revenue. Because most people don't know where the stance is. Because I'm even going to go into a case next week. Because a lot of these young men, I've had, actually I'm going to go into 2. Because it was a young man that I'm going to look for his comment, because I want to do part of a video on it, where he talked about the fact that, oh, you won't take a traffic case to federal court. I'm going to go over a case that this young man took a traffic case for tinted windows to the Supreme Court and won. Because just like I talked about in The Art of War, it's understanding, damn the battles. Everything you do need to be leveraged for winning the war. You have to begin with the end in mind. It's like goal setting. He was not going to stop until he got the result that was lawfully his. And he continued to push it. He pushed it all the way to the Supreme Court. I've even got a video on how to get a case heard by the Supreme Court. But once you get there, it's the understanding the art of painting a picture. But again, that's going to be done soon as well, because I'm putting together this year a masterclass on not only how to start a case, but how to finish it. But guess what? All of that costs money. All of that costs time. So when you're talking about the Innocence Project, because I'm pretty sure a lot of us has heard of that. Why? Because they deal with those cases where these young men and women are on death row. They go out and they do the investigations. Why? Because investigating costs money. They file the motions and they go before the court, because every time you go to court, that costs money. Every time somebody writes up a motion, that costs money. Every time that you're doing something based on law in this adversarial system, it costs money. And when you're understanding that even if you're doing it yourself, your money is taking up because it's your time. When you're dealing with something else beyond you, then you get to note the simple idiosyncrasies of the time versus dollar, pretty much rationale behind it. Because just like I told you, YouTube, that's free. Podcast, that's free. My time away from my friends and family, you got to pay for that. My time away from my studies, you got to pay for that. My time to sit on the phone with you, you got to pay for that. And the reason why I don't have a set number, I'm gonna give you that. I'm gonna give you the reason, because it's pretty simple. I had a friend of mine that had an issue. He has one of the best lawyers I've ever seen in my life. He's Martindale Hubble, high rated, blah 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 blah. He's king of the shark. He's a great white. Well, in the midst of working with the great white, he and I was on the phone. We had a conversation, and in the midst of the conversation, I started giving him unfeathered legal advice. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't really legal advice. I was just screaming a lot of stuff into the phone. He started repeating it. Later on, there's a job offer. And I think you all remember this too as well, because the same thing happened during my racketeering trial. I had to tell 3 separate law firms I was a defendant because I didn't walk like one. I didn't talk like one. I didn't dress like one, because I looked the part. But at the end of the day, I spent my time doing my own investigation. I spent my time writing my own motions. I spent my time doing everything I need to do, showing up for court every time. Why? Because either I'm going to spend my time or I'm going to spend my money. And because we're sitting in those realms, that's what has to happen. Even to the point where I played the part, I looked a different part. That's why nobody expected me to be who I was, because they were not expecting me to be the role that I was playing. They were not expecting me to be comfortable doing the things I did. Because when you take your emotions out of this, law is emotionless. It's precise. It's concise. Those are the things that separate the emotions, the opinions, and the BS. It allows you to ask the better questions so people can get out the way. But if you're not appreciative of the teachings, if you're not accepting of that's what's being given to you, if you don't have a willingness to figure out what that is, you got to pay somebody that does have that. But when you're sitting there, you're understanding each and every aspect of law has to be paid for, it becomes something else. Because even in the conversations that I had with these major law firms, each of them asked me, how much would you bill yourself out for? And I would throw out a number. All of them told me, you know what? Yeah, we bill you out for much more than that, but we give you that. We give you a salary for that. I've even had 2 offer me 6-figure salaries. And I was like, nah. And the question is always asked, why not? The thing is, if you want to be a sponsor for the show, there's a fee for that. And that's $100. Just to sponsor one YouTube video, say your name, and get all that good stuff up there. It costs you $100. And do a little quick commercial for you, $100. We good. If you want me to do an actual commercial for you, and we go through all that, that's $1,000. Cool. No biggie. No Tupac, no biggie. Let's go. But let's say you need a few minutes of my time. The reason I don't charge by the hour, the reason I don't charge or have a set rate is the same reason I gave them for not accepting these quote-unquote jobs. The reason why I have the YouTube channel, the reason why I have the podcast, is the fact that the amount of justice everybody can afford is not the same. Now, with me saying that, I've even had people, well, why won't you help people for free? Because, again, I've done that. Been there, done that, bought this. Because everybody that says they're broke, they're not. If I can have a young man saying I'm sleeping in my car, I don't have a roof over my head other than the vehicle, but I'm going to send you $20. Can I get a few minutes of your time? That's showing appreciation. If I can have a young lady to say, I don't have any lights in my house, can I send you $25, $30, whatever? I can't listen to the guy that says, yeah, I just went to work today and bought me a couple 12-pack of beer, but I ain't got no money to send you. Guess what? I ain't got no time for you. Because at the end of the day, sacrifice has to be something other than a tattoo or something on a t-shirt. How much is your freedom worth to you? Because the reason why I didn't entrust the investigating to anybody else, because one, I didn't trust anybody else. I didn't trust anybody else back when they were trying to take my life from me. I can't trust anybody else when they're trying to take my life from me. They're on their team. So I had to spend that time. I had to spend that money. I didn't trust anybody to speak for me because no one understood my words better than I do. But at the same time, what am I waiting on? Because if I paid somebody, I still have to give them instructions. Why? Because I'm the employer, not the employee. I'm the one that's steering the ship. I'm the one that has to exercise. I have to do it in writing. I have to take notes. I have to also pay attention and listen. So understanding those aspects, it's why I took over everything. And so I wouldn't have to go outside to pay anybody anything because I didn't trust them. Even in the midst of everything that was being done, my younger brother, Alicia, came to me, what do I do? Which direction do I need to head? And if he saw me doing something that wasn't right, he said, hey, brother, you need to change this. You need to change that. But even my other brother, his attorney, turned to me and she was like, where do we head from here? Do we need to do this motion? Do we need to say that? Can I ask this question? There were several times we sat down outside the courtroom and we had conversations on not necessarily strategy, but direction. I listened to her, she listened to me, and we went out because we had one mission, and that was to win. We put together a game plan that won. And at the end of the day, she was paid because that's why she was there. Somebody had to pay for her. My brother had to pay with time. Others have to pay with money because these are the levels of justice they can afford. What's your level of justice? When you know that bail is set at means that not only don't let you out, but to build wealth for somebody else. Can you afford that level? And after bail, every time you go to trial, can you afford to have somebody speak for you, or can you speak for yourself? Can you afford to file that paperwork, or does somebody have to be paid to file it for you? Can you afford the gas and the time to go down and stand in front of that prosecutor? Or if you're the complainant, do you have the time to sit down there in front of that judge and speak your word? Or do you have to pay somebody for that? Do you have the time or the wherewithal or even the knowledge to write out that motion properly? Or do you need someone's help to do it? Do you need someone's guidance to do it? What is your level of justice that you are prepared to do? Do you need somebody to teach you what to say when you're standing in front of a judge, what not to say when you're standing in front of a judge, when you're painting that picture, when you've got that brush in your hand? Or is it something that you already know how to do? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself each and every day, each and every time there is an issue. How much justice can I afford? Because I actually had one lady that actually, I love this chick. And every month, bow, here you go. It's not a ton of money. But the fact that she's like, look, this all I got, I appreciate you. This all I got, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And I told a friend of mine, I said, now here's, if I had 10 of her, I'll be all right. Just 10. Because you don't realize the difference that $100, $200, $300 makes every month. You know, I know people, a bunch of people, oh man, that's a good dinner. Yeah, it's a good dinner. Or that's lunch every day. you know, at the end of the day, it's something. But it builds. It's something that builds. It grows. It teaches. It helps improve. Because most people don't realize $300 that buys software. $300, that's a payment on a new laptop or computer. $300, that's new software for the audio. $300, that's a new mic. $300, that's new headphones. All these little things that go into building a better channel, go into building a better podcast, that go into building something that allows you to be greater today than you were yesterday. These are the things that these minor show of appreciation builds. Because I actually put on there on the notes for the donations is to keep the channel growing. Not going, but growing. At the end of the videos, I say, let's keep going, let's keep growing. Why? Because when I did the original GoFundMe was for another computer, which we have. Is it top of line? No. Can we get better? Absolutely. But it's what we have right now. I asked for new software. Do we have that? Absolutely. Have things that are a part of the software now. Why? Because of us. Because of you guys. Talk about a new mic. Guess what? We got that. Are we still building towards everything that was asked for in that GoFundMe? Absolutely. But do we have a new camera? Absolutely. Because we're shooting everything in 4K. And it's looking great. The thing that we have to understand is the better opportunities we have, the better opportunities we create, the better we can be. And we bring the number for justice to be improved upon for us. We bring that number down. We don't have to have OJ money for justice. We don't have to have the Innocence Project millions for justice. We don't have to have the ACLU's money for justice. We don't even have to have the justice from a public defender. Because we can keep building from what's being given to us for free and spending our time. We can send in $5, $10, $100 donation, whatever. Just to say, you know what, Rich, let's keep going, let's keep growing. We can also say, you know what, when I go to court, I am going to accept that public defender. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to exercise. Because the pen is mightier than the sword. I want to show them that I'm not incompetent. I'm going to direct how this goes. Because I'm going to let my light shine because I am that powerful. And as long as you're doing that, as long as you're standing up and you're fighting, those are the things that allow you to be better. Those are the things that allow justice to be heard. Because if we leave justice the way it is, it doesn't get better. Not fighting doesn't make it better. Because my great-grandparents, they used to always say, well, she peeking. That blindfold, she looking under that blindfold, she peeking. Because justice wasn't equal. Now justice is even more unequal because it's not just a skin tone they're going after. It's a different color, and that color is green. Because even Tupac talked about, it's not a regular war anymore. It's a war on the poor. These are the things he said in the 90s, in the 60s, 70s, the 80s. Everybody joked about the police being at war with the poor and blacks. Everybody, it was crazy. It was dumb. Now you got cell phones. Everybody has a camera. Everybody wants to be on Facebook and Instagram Live. And police want to destroy videos because now people are seeing, you know what? It's not just black people. White people getting beat up by cops too. White people are being threatened too. Mexicans are being threatened. Indians are being threatened. Hispanics are being threatened. Asians are being threatened. Everybody's being threatened. Those that are poor. Because there's a war against the poor. Because they can't afford much justice. They can't afford to stand there and fight. Fight. And then they're programming you not to fight. And then you look at somebody like me and say, yeah, let's fight, but do it for free. I can't be that solution for you. Not for free. I can't be your solution for free. And even in that fight, I can help you go in the right direction. I can prepare you as much as you're willing to learn and accept it. Because I actually have a lot of people that are stuck in their heads about what justice is. I have people that are stuck in their heads about what direction they want to go. And I'm even going to do a video about getting out of your own way. Because they are so stuck on them that they can't see what it is that they're missing. These are the things that are deterrents from success. One of the things we talked about with us even being successful was the fact that we weren't too grown to learn. Every day, what you learn today. What you learn today. We were in our 30s. You know what I'm saying? What you learned today? Yeah, let me tell you about this. But we were able to move forward because we weren't too grown to learn. Because our level of wanting justice was different from what was in our pockets. Could we have afforded attorneys? Yes. Should we have gotten attorneys? No. Because the attorneys, everybody that wanted to deal with us, wanted us to take a deal and quit. They didn't want us to fight. They didn't want anything to do with us when it came to winning, doing, participating, and being a part of this case. That wasn't what this was. But was that our level? Or was it because we were just so rambunctious about the fight, so excited about the adversary, that we just needed to fight? That we were going to fight anyway? It might have been that. But we spent our time. We spent our money. And that is the one thing that you have to decide. Is that your level of justice? Is it you cutting a check for somebody to represent you? Or you getting down in the trenches and going about it and doing it your way? That's all I got for today. I love you guys, and as I told you before, I appreciate the donations. As you see, it goes back to the channel. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep growing. And yes, the commercial for Manny is coming, so be on the lookout for it. And I love you guys. Until next time.
The chicken colossus.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.